Hi guys, yes, it's very early for you who are in America. I'm here to do a live update because I do have a full schedule today. So I thought I'd jump on and give you guys a live update as to the energy and what's happening. And also some of the things that are coming through in a transit with the energy. So I'll wait for a few people to connect and then we can get started. How are we all? How are we feeling energetically? Hello, how are you? I've just woken up and I've looked at my schedule. It's like, if I don't start now, I'm not going to have time today. It's been pretty busy. Hi, Belinda, how are you? Morning, Giggle. I've still yet to add Moon in Cancer as well. I haven't done that yet. Sorry, Derry. How are we all? Evening, Terry. Who have we got in the house? So try and keep up to date with the community tab because I try and give you guys updates. Some of the energy that is coming through for me personally, what I've found is a lot of the transits of what I was discussing, which I have done a bit of an update on the actual Facebook page. And I will continue to do that. Obviously, some things have come at left field for me, so I'm having to really cram and try and get things done to become organised with transformations happening on my side of the fence. What you do need to be mindful of, what you do need to be mindful of is with the astrology, it depends, you know, and especially in charts, we can actually skip steps. So it depends on how enlightened you are, how you're going with the lessons that you're supposed to go through. And I had noticed for me personally a trend coming through where the moon phase with the partial eclipse was denoting, you know, information coming through, new starts, things in which you will work on for the next 6 months. That was already transitioning probably a week to 2 weeks prior, but again, it does depend on where you are energetically. Now my cat's going to scream. Yes, that's nice. It's like she wants to come and announce that she's here. With the next one, which is the 21st, it's supposed to denote endings, but a lot of karmic endings and things tying up in a sense are going to be coming through. Some of you may be actually dealing with aspects of those already. And with those endings, you'll be inclined to make those happen if you're really getting to a point where you're fighting it. It's going to be more difficult. So you really need to look quite rationally at the things that you're being asked to reassess. And generally with the partial solar eclipse, I was actually picking up that there could be some sort of Mercury-like energy going on, with it feeling a bit like a retrograde, and that's with the solar winds, etc. It was going to cause that. Also with a lot of placements with the planets this year, heavily so you'll find around the eclipse seasons, with interacting planets, there will be more events happening in weather patterns, and that can be earthquakes, tsunamis, which I had said. There is one currently coming up in New Zealand at the moment, and I had actually seen Bali, but again, some of the activities, whatever is happening on one side of the world, you'll actually find something simultaneously is happening on the other side of the world. So as I said before, you do need to be mindful of that and try and have things on hand of essentials, you know, water and things to that degree. And that is because of the planets that we do have in a transit at the moment. So there is a higher likelihood of colder winters and wetter ones, as well as more humidity and tropical troughs. So just be mindful of that with the astrology. I do have your charts here. There is one at the top point of the island, so they are aware that it is going to happen and it could cause a tsunami. So have a look on the news. I'll try and put it on Facebook so you guys can see. My sister shared it to me because when I do put my predictions up, I do tend to keep you posted as to what I'm visually seeing, and then try and share the post to the actual Facebook page so you guys are in the loop as to what I'm seeing. I had actually had several premonitions about Bali, but again, it could still be New Zealand, but I was fairly sure it was Bali. But we'll wait and see. As for any transitions that are happening at the moment, the moon is in Aries, which is actually very good for manifestation and making decisions and making some hopes and dreams come true. So it's quite a balancing time where we're ending out karmic cycles. We're actually looking at what does connect with us and what doesn't, and how we're going to move our life forward. So how many people do we have in the house? We've got 23. Do we have any questions while I'm here before I start reading your charts? I'll read portions of your charts and the placements for the moon energy on the 21st, because I feel those ones are of the most importance. Although we had the partial solar eclipse, we do have the moon in Leo on January the 21st, and each house is going to denote what's coming up for you personally. So I was going to read all the charts individually, but, you know, I did that on the Twin Flame Alchemist Union. But if I was to do it here, I'm trying to find a way in which I can stream to all medias so that we can all have updates. Obviously, when it does come to the Twin Flame journey, I've realised that a lot of you do want the information on this channel as well. So I'm trying to rejig it to a point where I could perhaps do the live sessions on here, so that the people that have been following me for 3 odd years can get that information. Yes, they will be. And the reason I'm saying that is because I'm now in communication with mine and reunion. So, but look, reunion is where you're actually looking at situations and seeing whether it can be rectified, cleaned up, sorted, balanced. But really what I have noticed is that you need to just pay attention to your side of the fence to try and keep the balance and try and keep it flowing. Broker moving a pool table. Any questions? Not necessarily. Sometimes when your throat chakra goes, it can be a connection to another person. I mean, mine went the other day, but my communication is flowing quite freely, so I feel it's more connected to my twin. And he has things he's dealing with personally, so it's more likely him than me. I'm keeping my throat chakra close to my side of the fence. Will there be a pregnancy for me this year? What zodiac sign are you? Taurus has a high likelihood this year of actually marrying. The dull ringing in the ears may increase in pitch. It's usually when you're having an upgrade. Yes, there can be a potential for you. Just make sure it's a grounded situation first, love. You know, if there's lots going on, it can actually hinder it. The base chakra has been coming up quite a bit for a lot of us, as well as there has been almost like about 2 weeks of lack of sleep, where you've either been cramming and you've been trying to actually get sleep. And it's not that you're not tired and you don't want to sleep, it's just been this, and you'll find those of you who are coming close to that point, you'll be seeing 144, 211, 111. The anxiety, you need to tune into what it is. But the fatigue and trying to get things done in a short space of time is becoming problematic. We do need to be mindful moving through to July that loose ends as such and things of a balanced nature you need to move towards, because by July we are going retrograde, and there is quite a few planets going retrograde, and they're all simultaneously going to be retrograde at the same time for 4 months. So it's an unusual year energetically. It is denoting big change. A lot of it is connected to your spirituality. People that are a Taurus are really going to struggle, because Uranus is going to be in Taurus, and Taurus really likes to keep everything the same, and that's collective energy as well. So where it does come to you not wanting to change something, but knowing somehow you need to tweak it and you need to change it, you're going to sort of be forced to. And it's not that you... It's in your higher good. So especially if you have found your stability externally to yourself, especially for a Taurus, actually finding that compass inside to feel stable inside is going to be quite important, and not look externally to yourself. It is a year where we may beautify things. And Jupiter is actually going to ask us to expand, but it can be internally, mentally, spiritually, especially with the transit of Uranus at the moment. But at the same time, how are you doing, Dale? My poor neighbour was very unwell. Yeah, so there's big changes for Taurus, and that's of a spiritual nature. Any karmic endings are coming, but usually what will happen when you're having a spiritual upgrade is you'll get very unwell. You'll get very fatigued, and you'll sleep or get sick, and you'll be saying, oh, I don't have the time to be sick, you know, I have to keep going. And then suddenly something will happen. It's almost like universe saying to you, well, we have a need for you to upgrade. So it can be like a walk-in situation where you have to, it's not that you've got to slow down. It's more that, you know, during the time it was, you skipped a step energetically of lessons. So what then happens is you become ill, or you get sick, or a block in your path comes, you get fatigued, you recoup. When you come back up, you're ready to address any 3D situations you've got going on in your life. It's because you're spiritually having an upgrade. So yeah, don't take it personal when that happens. It is an egoic cycle sort of thing, because the ego is always battling with us. And some of the energies of actually saying, hey, Rebecca, that we need to understand that at the moment there's no karmic. And the reason being, and I saw a shift in that energetically, really what we're moving into after 2018 is having a realization from here on in, the karmic does become us. So if we step in our way, we are physically the karmic. If we do not own our power, we physically become the karmic. So it's a very interesting shift in energy that, you know, processing the pain body experience and understanding that you need to release that, and try not to, and I know we're all very tempted to, try not to keep going over old ground in the past, because the past no longer is here. Use it as a tool to comprehend perhaps, but not to live there, because you physically don't live there. You need to move forward. Does that make sense? But it's like you need to energetically be more in the moment, not in the past, not in the future. If you're getting triggered, you need to come back to the here and now, and that's what's really going to anchor you in and ground you. Yes, the 21st is going to be very interesting because it does denote massive endings. Now, when it does come to that, either side, there will be seismic activity as well. But at the same time, whatever is coming up in your life, it can also be connected to 2018. So anything you hadn't ended. And interestingly enough, for whatever's coming up for Libra, do we have any Librans in the house? Yes, and it is a blood moon. So it's almost like the connection of having 4 full moons in a month with that moon. So for those of you who do get affected by the moon and you're more connected in with yourself, what you'll find is moving into it, you can either be on higher frequency or triggered frequency. Moving into it, peak clarity, providing you're not doing stupid crap to actually place yourself off balance, you know, like alcohol or any of that. You will be at your highest intuitive point. Now, like I mentioned in the previous sessions, and the moon and the sun, to my belief at that time, are going to be conjunct. So the ego is connected to sun frequency. In a balanced sense, you are using your knowledge, your wisdom, your fire to actually attain your goals and deal with 3D situations. In the lower frequency, it can become quite bitter. The way you communicate can be quite toxic, quite narcissistic. So it's gauging where that frequency is, be it with you or other individuals, to navigate through that situation. When it does come to the moon energy, in the higher realm of it, which is the intuitive side, one could see the moon card as lacking in clarity and something hidden, but it's directly connected to your intuition. So it will be a peak in intuition of what you need to close out, what you need to move away from it. It can even be a vibration and a feeling, or an opinion connected to an area. It doesn't have to be a 3D item. It can be a mindset, and it can again be a spiritual upgrade. For Librans, the moon initially for the partial eclipse, Let's have a look. It is connected to root chakra and third eye. So if you're getting headaches and your lower back is hurting or your abdomen, you need to balance those two chakras. So if you're having activations in those areas, it's due to the placement of the planets. Also, what you will be finding is with the partial, a lot of what would have come up was all connected to yourself. You know, what your ability to provide for yourself, the way in which you express yourself, so communication as well to a degree, and the way you're looking at yourself. So your perspective connected to yourself in the partial eclipse may have transitioned and changed, and the way you look at things has. You're also going to be very carefully looking at your public image, what you're able to give back, and trying to find that balance. And intuitively, I was really looking at your work domain, you know, in that section, Libra. And I was finding that you're directly looking at it about how you can actually create a balance. And the balance is, you know, being able to manage your workload, being able to manage connections in general, and you directly keeping balance, but having some bright ideas connected to what you can actually do. Hi, Olsen, how are you? Now, with the 21st for Libran, Mercury is squaring Uranus. Now, this is going to be emotional based. They do say don't make rash decisions, but for me personally, I feel if you have had a knowing connected to something that you needed to end something or change something because you physically did not feel the connection. Although with the Leo King, if you have watched him, and you do watch him, he did mention a lot of information might not be coming through for 6 to 8 weeks after the fact. So there can be a pause. As Carmen was saying, we were talking earlier privately. The pause button is due to the fact that a lot of karmic cycles are ending out or tying up. Hi, Luciana. So in relation to if you're inclined not to end something, if you've known and you've had this thing for a while, you need to take the appropriate measures and respectful measures to actually deal with that. But at the same time, if it's something that you're still not completely sure, it's in that notion that you don't actually, you know, end a cycle out. What it is coming up for Libran is, again, public image, social contributions, and employment. So it may be around this time, which I'm already feeling this because I'm Libran, my main sign's Libran, is that connected to the 21st, you will have an influx of work. So it may be more busy at that time. Then, yeah, it is. Well, I've got the sun through the actual roof. It's got a plastic panel, which is making me look like I've got a burning ring of fire around my hair. Anyway, okay, so hi.
Bye.
Bye. It is also connected to your ideas, your friends, associates, social value, and aspirations. This is my twin. Whatever, giggle. So for you guys, the way you're looking at things might be changing with your friendships, with your peer group, with your employment and your associates. So those things can be changing. Don't you be laughing at me. It hasn't been the greatest week. It's been very interesting. So for you guys, what can be coming up with the 21st can be to do with how you're going to balance things, okay? Yeah, it's going to be more hectic weather. The sun also will be for you in an egoic sense. Be very careful when it does come to children, your romance. So if you're balanced, you'll be understanding and you'll be okay with that area. If you're not and your frequency's down, you'll actually find it to be more difficult. So be mindful with the moon and the sun around that time. Those two areas are going to really come up for Librans. Children, personal creativity, so it could be business ventures, it could be your romance, partners, spouse, and open enemies. So it could be you're dealing with karmics. Yes. Ideas, friends, associates, social value, and aspiration. So it's about balancing everything, which I did say for Libra this year it will be. I feel for you guys moving through to March, it'll be you're going to have to keep the balance, and there's going to be lots of changes between now and March for you. But if you can keep those things in check and keep balanced, these will be the areas that'll be coming up for you. It can be closing out cycles connected to those areas as well, of what doesn't serve you any longer and what does. So have that in mind when it does come to the way you're dealing with it. Necessary changes. I don't feel, look, the planets don't govern us. How do I put it? The planets are like the weather forecast. Energetically, if it's something that you spiritually feel disconnected from, it will change. If it's not and it's in alignment with you, it will remain. So it's nothing that is going to be taken from you physically. If the foundation is rocky, in any given situation, it will fall down. So it's not that Saturn, for instance, is, you know, against you, or that it's... Saturn is almost like the energy that says to you, okay, you know what's going on, so what do you directly need to do in order to make this correct for yourself? I'm trying to shift from the sun because it's going to cook my phone. Let's see where Saturn's placement is for you guys. Saturn's going to be in Capricorn in your 3rd, 4th and 5th house. So again, still communication, your personal ideas. So really, you're going to be looking at how you need to communicate correctly, in what way it is your side of the fence to communicate and where it's not. You're also going to be looking at the psychological foundation of what is the reality of the situation, and any domestic situations to balance them out, and what stays, what goes. So what's in alignment with who you are, not okay, something's not balanced, so it's not meant for you. More, okay, what do we need to do to get the balance back? How do we go about this? In the expansion sector for you, again, is communication. So if you do work in the line of communication, it will be very good. The way in which you express yourself is going to be quite high, and it can be short journeys as well. But very much your employment is quite highlighted in 2019. And it may be spiritually for you that what you're having to do, it's like, I almost said that 2018 was like the emergency ward, and 2019 is like the recovery ward. So anything you're needing to do to actually clean up, create that foundation, clear the way is what's really coming through. So a lot of communication. Sagittarius, for you guys, you had in the partial eclipse, can be your social value, your land and your possessions. So it might have been that you moved. It may be that you're looking at assets and what you need to do to attain assets. So it may be that you're considering your future and your finances, of tying up loose ends, and it can be taxation and situations to that degree, so you can have a balanced foundation to attain that goal within 6 months, or be in a better position to actually have your finances in order to move forward with that situation. It's also about what other people can do, and it can be legacies, it can be wills. It's really looking at your whole life to the core, and where your abilities to bounce back after tower moments are occurring, that you're really assessing. So again, I do feel for you guys, it's very much connected to, how would you put it, your stability and your belief system of what finances are. That's already passed, but it will be something that is coming up for the next 6 months, as I said. So if that area connected to separate areas that were highlighted around that time, just because these come up in your chart, it doesn't mean they're the only energy that you will directly be working on. Anything that comes to light around the first half of the month is going to be key factors of what you will be working on for the next 6 months. The same situation is going to go when it does come to you know, anything else that does come through. So if it does come through, those will be areas you'll be working on to stabilize out, to work with it and move forward. Now on the 21st for you personally, like I said, it's a total eclipse, and it is blood moon energy. It's in your 8th and your 9th house. So that's other people's resources, death, sex, the bounce back effect, and your abilities at a financial level. So things that you're going to be looking at ending is, it can be for some of you, you're dealing with wills or legacies connected to family members. It can be something that you feel spiritually needs to be tied out and released, that you physically do that. And yes, there can be around this transit between now, and I'm feeling quite heavily. It was moving through from December all the way through to January. And I'd mentioned that mid last year, that was the energy I was feeling, is that if more the karmic endings are coming through now, where that shifts, what you're going to find is if you had not been tying up loose ends, it can even be divorce. Okay, so if you're finding that that energy is not working for you spiritually and it's just not in alignment with you, it can be that you start moving towards that situation and you tie that up, and that's to free the other person and free you and create that balance. But try at the moment not to create more karma and keep it very neutral, because a lot of the placements at the moment have no air, so in the planetary placement, so it can feel quite suffocating and stifling when it does come to you making decisions. But if you can keep grounded and you look at it very rationally, there's no right or wrong decision. If it's an alignment and you're supposed to be somewhere, you will always be shifted back to that. So try not to get to a point where you decide not to make a decision, because that can actually hinder you from moving forward as well. Some of you also around this time for Sagittarius may be upskilling. I'll get to it. I'll do all the charts. It can also be your belief systems as well around what the bigger goal is going to be, is going to change and shift. But there is travel connected to this. Some of you, your employment may end up being connected to travel. And it is something of a major essence that what you're learning is going to end something. So there will be an ending connected to that. Now, the sun enters Aquarius on the 20th, which is pretty much near the total eclipse. For you personally, Sagittarius, again, it's going to be your communication. If you're at the lower frequency, you're going to be quite triggered with the way you communicate, so watch your tongue. Your ideas, you're going to communicate them. Again, keep them very positive and neutral. Don't get to a point where you're biting off, you're saying something and you'll regret it, especially when it comes to employment. Children, personal creativity and romance, higher education, religion, and long distance travel. So again, it's very similar to what is going on with the moon. You really are summing up your life and looking at it like you're wanting to pull things in and create something that you've been wishing for, but at the same time, how do I put it? Perhaps you've delayed because you had lacked that belief system that you were able to attain these things. But I really feel there's a bit of a bee in your bonnet at the moment, especially with you being in your own house at the moment, getting to a point where you're wanting to get things done, and you're really manning or womaning up and having a real shift with that. But if you do book a reading, I will have these charts and I can read right through your chart, as well as I'll give you the psychic reading as well. Okay, so Saturn for you is going to highlight, again, your self-image. It's going to, again, your finances and your ability to bounce back. What assets you have and how you can actually get your plans off the ground connected to your assets, and again, communication, ways of expressing. So when it does come to your communication, if you are working, be very careful. Especially if you're getting triggered, be mindful. You know, don't get triggered and then, you know, quit a job and then go, sod it, I'll find another one. Make that transition very smooth, you know, because we're wanting to leave karmic cycles behind. Yes, if you have to end it. But when you are looking at situations to that degree, try and do it very gradual. Even if it means you're balancing both sides, do that so you can transition through and it's not going to directly impact you, because remember, the 21st can denote endings. Okay, Aries, your partial solar eclipse that has passed already was in the 4th and the 10th house. Now that is again connected to your personal resources, your possessions, your land and material. Some of you may have been tying up loose ends connected to, you know, family heirlooms and, you know, assets connected to parents that are passed over, land that you wanted to actually get rid of that's been in your family or with you for a very long time. But really looking at the financial aspect of things and where you're going to go from here. You're also looking at how people look at you. And this can be a bit of an ego in a balanced sense. It can be positive or negative. Again, the energy that's coming through for me, for those of you who are feeling quite triggered, it will be your paranoia connected to what people will think. Also, your ability to financially provide for yourself if you have to make certain steps. So you're really processing what you can do to get yourself out of a situation, I'm feeling, in order to physically move forward. For the 21st, which is connected to the endings, you have the 4th house, which is psychological foundation, domestic issues, endings, and parents. So again, house, if you're in a partnership and it wasn't connecting with you, even at emotional, vibrational level, doesn't have to be 3D, that can physically tie out an end. Children, your belief system's connected to that. It might be the end of the road of your belief system connected to, hey, I want children. This is something I need. Your opinion of that is going to change. Be it good or bad, whether you do, whether you don't. Personal creativity and romance. Now, the sun energy working with the moon during that total lunar eclipse is going to be in the 1st house, which is your self-image, your ability to financially provide for yourself and the way you express. It's also going to be in the 5th house, which is children, your creativity and romance. So again, your employment, your belief systems about what family is and how that's going to change. Your friends, associates, and aspirations. So I feel a lot of you are going to be looking at your work. You're going to be looking at all the connections, and it's almost like I'm seeing you guys physically balancing out what you're passionate about and what you're not. But you already know what this is, and that's why I was saying I gave you the kind of juxtaposition between what I'd been doing, because I pay very careful attention to the way I operate. A lot of you would have already been thinking about what you wanted to manifest, probably in 2018, mid-December. That would have already been coming through for the partial solar eclipse. You would have already been moving towards that or intuitively having hunches, and that has been coming through. For the ending, well and truly, that would have been coming through as well for Aries, where they would have been looking at it and knowing what they needed to end in a sense of what wasn't working for them. What reality base had they created that was based on an illusion, which is Uranus, and I can check that because this is an interesting chart. Okay. Again, the way they see themselves, the way they express themselves, their friends and associates. So it's like they're changing it up and getting to a point where they're saying, hey, this was me before, this just isn't me now. Where do I need to move towards to be more in alignment with who I am today? Does that make sense? Any questions before I leave the Aries behind? I've got 1 battery and I've got 12 zodiac signs to get through. Virgo. Okay, for the partial solar eclipse, it was in the 5th and the 11th house, which is connected to children, personal creativity and romance. Any manifestations in that area are going to be coming through for you on top of whatever else you actually had coming up. Also, your ideas, friends, associates, social value, and aspirations. So again, I'm seeing career goals. It might be some hopes and dreams that you had that you were looking at and you were like, right, I want to make this happen. You need to realize it can take 6 months. So it's not that these things aren't, how do I put it? When they came through on the 6th, what would be highlighted to you is what you would physically need to do in order to balance that out, manifest that in, and do the work to get that goal. So when it does come to children, you know, some of you might be saying, hey, I want a child. How do I manifest that? When I say manifest, what can I physically do to make that happen apart from the norm, guys? Some of you may have fertility-related issues, and it could be that you're dealing with situations like that. Others of you might have a child and, you know, you're dealing with energies that you're trying to balance out with that child, and how do you balance everything? So it really will be very personal to what physically is happening on in your life. When it does come to that, you're also looking at how to balance family, love, children, if you have children, and, you know, your hopes and dreams. It's a bit, I do feel a really pulling with your heart chakra, where it does come to you thinking, am I allowed to do both? Can I do both? How am I going to balance both? So that is really going to be something that you guys are going to have to try and find that balance. With the sun frequency coming through during the eclipse, the total eclipse on the 24th in Leo, you're going to have the 11th house and the 12th house. Now, at a lower frequency, it can be that something of the, how do I put it? It can be karmic endings. It can be old wounds coming up connected to cheating. It can be illicit affairs, hidden motivations, hidden resources and enemies, endings of a cycle. So it can also be connected to almost like the hermit mode, where you're meditating upon what ended and what you need to end. And it can be a belief system. It can be an egoic state, again, because the 12th house is the same in the sun as the moon at the same point. So something connected to a karmic cycle is closing out. It also can be very closely connected to your abilities to be psychic. So your intuition around that time may be extremely heightened around that physical time. Also, with the 11th house, with what's ending around that time, it can be anything connected to a group of friends, associates, again, you know, your social value, how people see you, whether people are respecting you. So I do feel it's a lot about you owning your power and saying, okay, you know, I'm closing out the cycle because it's not in alignment with me anymore. And it can even be employment. It doesn't have to be a romantic partner. You know, a karmic cycle can even be a job where you're tied to it and it physically doesn't feel in alignment with you and you feel you're cheating yourself because you deserve better. So really pay attention to what that be. It does not necessarily mean that it's going to be connected to a love interest. You'd have to come through, get a booking with me, and I'll tell you Venus house. Saturn is going to be in the psychological foundation position, as well as any domestic issues are going to come up. And again, it can be endings. You also have the 6th and 5th house, which is children, romance, employment, health. Again, what's working, what's not is really going to be shown to you. And I feel your intuition will be on peak. It's just about having the courage and working with the sun and the moon energy and not getting into an egoic stance to actually rectify that and start moving towards what you feel is in your higher calling to better your situation. Taurus. The first portion of the solar eclipse was in your 3rd and your 9th house, which is communication, personal ideas, self-expression and short journeys. So if you are working in communication and your job does have a connection to I need to talk to work, then something of that will be highlighted where it'll bode very well for positions, for instance. So around the partial eclipse, what you'll find is if you can learn to use your communication technique correctly, you will have the Midas touch when it comes to, I can't say manipulating, but, you know, putting a good quality butter on the bread. So you will have great throat chakra, providing you're not coming from a place of ego. So just be careful with that. It can denote short journeys and the way in which you express yourself. So at a higher degree, away from like a triggered egoic state, you're going to be on fire. If you're not coping with the transitions, the transformations, and you'll find a lot of you this month will really get to a point where you're really being careful about what you say. You're like about to say something and then you're retrieving it back and you're like, yeah, I don't think that's correct. I shouldn't be saying that. That is very much connected to what's going on right now. Now, you also may be working in education because the 9th house is higher education, religion, long distance travel. So it could be that you're working in tourism. It could be that you're physically, you know, working as a teacher. Hi, Michelle. So whatever that be in that area, maybe you're feeling your belief systems are changing. The way your road was traveling is going to be different. It might take a little bit longer than shorter, and you're okay with that. But you know it's a learning curve. So a lot of what's coming is actually a learning curve. Whatever else has been coming up around that time, again, as I've said previously, it's something you're going to be working on for the next 12 months, 6 to 12 months. So just understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. But yes, it's saying that it's boding well, especially from a manifestation point of view. When it does come to the ending cycle on the 21st, it's your 3rd and your 4th house, which is communication, personal ideas, and self-expression. You're also going to be looking at psychological foundations, domestic issues, endings, and parents. So it can be that you are communicating your truth, and some of you might be really peeved off by people's opinions, that they're really pressing them on you. It can also be that you're looking at how a direct home environment is actually suffocating you, be it home, be it work, and you're looking at, you're saying, oh, I just can't do this anymore. I've been doing this for everyone else, but I haven't actually been doing this for myself. Hi, Mark. So if that's coming up for you, just be mindful of that. And again, even though when they are looking at the total eclipse, you know, the Leo King was saying for 6 to 8 weeks, a lot more information will come through. Don't do anything rash. If you in your higher self are grounded and you know what you need to do, you need to do it, okay? So don't delay things just because you hear from a reader that you don't delay things. If you feel intuitively guided to, there's no right or wrong decision. It's if you have to do something, you have to do it because you're being drawn to, and follow your intuition when it comes to it. But do be mindful that more information can come through as the weeks process and progress. The sun energy for you correlating with the total eclipse is going to be in the 4th, 10th, and 12th house. Again, this can be connected to illicit affairs. It can be connected to your job and you feel it's not in alignment with you. Hidden enemies. So if you have any connection to a work environment and a romantic connection, be super careful, because it's, you know, the first part was connected to your work. Although this can be very external to you, where you feel that something that you emotionally held on to, that might have been a divorce or a separation, that you're ending that conflict within you and you're actually releasing that situation. Your public image as well is going to be in highlight. So at the higher level, it will be that you are super attractive and on fire this month. At a lower frequency, it may be that you are kind of beating yourself up and wanting to set some goals and looking at it and saying, hey, you know, hi, Lauren. Wanting to look different and have things different. I did do Sagittarius earlier. Just so you know, it is in there. Okay, what else do we have? But there is, especially with the sun connected to the total eclipse, you'll find that any foundation that isn't stable for Taurus, it is going to end, because it is connected to domestic issues, foundation, and endings. Your public image, and again, your profession. So if anything has gone on there, try not to come from a place of ego. Try to come quite balanced, because it can actually cause a lot of issues in your employment sector. Saturn for you personally is going to be in your 8th, 9th, and 10th house. Again, public image, your employment, other people's resources, your ability to bounce back, and the psychological foundation, as well as your belief system. So be very careful, Taurus. Scorpio. How very uncanny, Lauren. No joke, seriously, for it, Scorpio. Lauren is actually psychic. Okay, we have the moon in Capricorn on the, which is past. For you guys, it was in your 9th and your 3rd house. That's already passed, but it'll give you a slight inclination as to maybe what you'll be working on for the next 6 months. Again, as I've mentioned, as well as anything else that has been highlighted that's come up for you that you'll be looking at. It is in your higher education, so where you're needing to upskill, where you're needing to better your situation, what your belief systems are. And again, with Jupiter, Uranus, and you know, all the other planets, a lot of us are having that upgrade, our belief system. So we're going to have to be very careful about navigating, how do you put it, knowing what your tribe is, but not getting driven by the tribe notion, okay? Because we do need to be, if you've become enlightened, so to say, you need to use your own brain. Don't be just using it as an excuse and saying, hey, this is my tribe, so my tribe does X, Y, and Z. Literally use your own brain. You're going to have, and that's for all of us, we're going to have an access and a home inside, to a point where we're going to have a routine. If you don't have a routine with Jupiter, you're going to go off track, and you'll get to a point, you'll start something, and then it's a bit like ADHD. It's like, oh, I'm going to start this project, it's really good, and then you're going to start something else, and you're going to be bouncing back and forward. You won't feel as grounded, and you won't get shit done. So try and have a basic routine to hold on to, and that's what's going to help you move through the year comfortably. Otherwise, it might get you into a lag mentality. Now, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, can mean weight gain. So be careful and keep that routine and don't indulge too much. Try and transmute that frequency into something creative, because, you know, expansion can be spiritually, mentally, physically. You know, be active in a sense of doing something that's going to anchor you in, motivate you, and spiritually grow you, not vice versa. You guys were looking at, with, you know, the manifestation aspect of things, your education, where you need to grow, what your spiritual beliefs are, what the bigger plan is and how far you can go with the situation, your communication and the way you communicate, your ideas, and again, you know, what's going to go the distance and what isn't. You really are looking at what you're going to put your energy into in a sense of manifestation. When it does come to ending out cycles, Scorpio, it is in your 9th and your 10th house, which is, again, your higher education. Do you need to upskill? Your belief systems, your spirituality, and again, what's going to go the distance. So it might be that something you had invested in you want to bring to an end, because you're just not feeling it. You know it can go the distance, but you don't know whether you want to go the distance with it. It could also be a connection to you feeling that you had actually held yourself back and you weren't able to believe in yourself enough to go the distance. And that can come to an end as well, where you go, no, actually, I can do this. It's okay. I can actually handle this, and I don't need X, Y, and Z external codependent help in order to make me achieve my hopes, dreams, and goals. It also is with your public image, and, you know, your ability to financially provide for yourself, your possessions, and family. So, you know, you're wanting to know what belief systems need to come to an end. Some of you, if you've had conflict with family members, it will come to an end. Hi. When it does come to the sun conjunct with the moon around that time, because again, the moon is in Aquarius on the 20th, you have your 4th, 6th, and 10th house, which the 10th house is around the same time as the endings coming through with the total lunar eclipse. Again, connected to your public image, your profession, and parents. So whatever's coming up, be careful not to come from a place of ego. If some water has been under the bridge and you're needing to balance things out with family, try to do it from a non-egoic stance. But, you know, try not to recreate more karma, because it is, again, no air planets being there. It can be problematic that we are getting triggered and we're not communicating correctly. But I am saying for you guys, your employment is changing. You're looking at foundations at home and whether it's workable. It can be within your connections, can be with a love interest. You know, what is going to work and what's not? How do I actually go about rectifying this, and how do I change it? Now, Saturn also for you is going to be governing your 2nd, 3rd, and 4th house. Again, it can be with your finances, with an asset. You might be concerned about it, but you know what to do. You need to listen to your intuition. Try and look at Saturn as your intuition, away from ego, as well as your communication and your personal ideas. You're going to be communicating about what you want to do, connected to those assets if you want to move, if you don't, if home is inside or if home is in a direct location. Or, you know, what you would need to do in order to create that balance within the home. It's also going to be the psychological foundation, any domestic issues you might have been having, endings, and parents. So if you aren't gelling with a particular party, you know, whether it can be balanced, whether it can't be, whether it's just a phase that you were going through in 2018 and you're becoming more grounded now, all of that is going to give you the clarity, but it's going to come through for you personally. Most welcome. But again, if you do book a reading, I do have the whole chart with each placement, and I can go into the detail, and obviously I'll give you the psychic reading on top of it. Gemini. Do we have a Gemini in the house? We're getting there. Let's hope my battery doesn't die, or else this will be part 2. Gemini, for the solar eclipse, that partial solar eclipse that passed, it was in the 2nd and the 8th house. So for you, again, whatever was coming through around that time for your intuition or a 3D nature, you'll still be working on that for 6 months, and it bodes well. So if you're considering something and you're like, I'm not quite sure how this is going to go, It will go well, but it's going to take some time. So any intuition you get connected to that, you need to place it, and you need to start taking the steps to actually move that physically forward. It's not saying, how do I put it? So whatever you're trying to manifest, it comes in, but it's the foundation, okay? So working through that is the time frame it gets to attaining its full peak potential. That can be your personal resources, possessions, land, value, material. So again, your assets, you're looking at that. How do I fine tune this? How do I bring the balance back with this? Also other people. So it can be their resources. It can also be wills. And, you know, what you're going to do to create a legacy for yourself, what you're going to do to actually move your situation forward, and your abilities to bounce back after situations. And 2018 would have really showed you where there were flaws in that plane. Even though a lot of it with Saturn retrograde, we would have been directly dealing with those things, we wouldn't have had the energy to actually attain those goals. So now we're having more energy. Some of you may be meditating quite a bit, to a point where you can't sleep, and it's because you're trying to problem solve, but try not to mentally burn yourself out. Again, it is third eye and root chakra. So again, it's our foundation, what we're meditating upon with the third eye, and the actual physical foundation, which is base chakra. Thus the reason why a lot of you may be getting, you know, lower back pains, abdominal pains, headaches. That's due to the fact of that placement for that first partial solar eclipse. And again, it does move through in the same kind of stance moving forward. On the 21st for you guys, it is going to denote your second house, which is again your personal resources, possessions, land and material value. What is going to be grounded? What's going to be, you know, what needs to come to an end? Some of you may be leaving a connection. Some of you, this could be employment. Again, it does directly connect to what is going on with you in your current 3D life. Again, communication and the way in which you're communicating. If there's been silence, it could come to an end. If you haven't spoken up, that could come to an end as well. And the way in which you communicate can be, providing it's not coming from ego, it can be transmuted correctly. Although we have Mercury direct, I would advise all of you to be super careful around the total lunar eclipse, because we do have the sun energy. And we also have Mercury in Aquarius at the same time on the 24th. So, again, I'm feeling sort of like Mercury retrograde energy, only if we're moved into ego. So, you can kind of navigate that between how you're feeling and if you're going to get triggered. If you're going to get triggered, be careful with your throat chakra. This, again, is in your third house for the sun, for communication, your personal ideas. Hi. The way you express yourself, your education, your belief system, and long distance travel. Again, this can be the longitude of how far you can go with situations, as well as any ideas, friends, associates, and values and aspirations. It's going to be shown to you who you connect to spiritually, who you do, who you don't. And what was the other chakra that I had coming up? And that was for everyone. Your manifestation abilities, providing you're not falling into ego, is going to be pretty high. So you'll have a lot of solar plexus coming up and sacral chakra. And this being activated is going to move you forward. So there's a lot of sexual energy. Yeah, the high-pitched ringing is usually something's coming. Okay, so you guys are really looking at your foundation. You're also looking at your friendships and what you need to end, what you don't. It might be you don't like your job and you need to change it, and you're thinking, okay, what do I need to do to actually change this? And how am I going to get the ball moving? Saturn is in your 7th house of partners, spouse, open enemies, and other people. So again, being in the 7th house, you're really going to be showing what is in your higher good. You're going to have a reality check. How other people are actually coming to the table with you, as well as what you want to leave behind and your ability to actually provide for yourself. Also in your 9th house is connected to your higher education, your philosophies and religion. So, you know, your belief systems might be changing around this time. On top of that, you may find that you may wish to upskill, and it can be that you're looking at your partnership sector. If you're inclined to do something in relationship to relationships, follow your intuition, because again, It's the reality. So if you know the reality but you're not doing anything, you need to directly deal with that and start getting the ball rolling, because that is the karmic ending and that energy there. Capricorn. Interesting. Capricorn. God. Where are we at? What time is it? I need to be mindful. I may have to come back and do part 2, because we have Capricorn, Pisces, Leo, Aquarius and Cancer, because I have a reading in a moment and I'll do these ones next. And then I'll also give a separate update as to the energies, and I'll give an opportunity later to actually ask more questions. So it'll either be later on today or it will be tomorrow. So I will give you a heads up, and I'll put communication on the communication board so that you guys know when that's happening. Love and light.